Hey everyone, it's Ed on Lessons from My Mentors. I want to cover this topic again. I know I covered it somewhere along the way, and there's like a bunch of episodes, and I didn't do a great job on titling, but I've been referencing it. So I wanted to drop a specific episode just about the concept of strategic planning for your career. And then I also think it works great for your life, your marriage, your family, all those sort of things. So I'll tell you the evolution of this. I was really curious when I first got into the corporate world. I had gotten my master's degree, studied a lot of business about strategy, vision, all this kind of stuff. And I'll never forget some of the statistics. I don't know if they're as high in terms of correlation as they were 30 years ago, but the statistics were clear that a company that had a plan outperformed by like 20x, whether you use the stock market as an indicator or profitability, 20x those companies that were just kind of winging it. And then I looked at the executives in the executive suite where I worked at the time with Teledyne Waterpick. I worked on the assembly line, and it's like their lives were kind of messy. And then it was the same on the reserve career side in the Army, where I was a lieutenant, maybe a captain. And I look at the colonels, and their lives were kind of messy. And then I found this article, I think it was in Forbes or Fortune, about how A plus executives get A, F minus as parents, all that kind of stuff. And it really got me thinking, like, why don't we use these same principles? So that's how it all started. And then I had a mentor that kind of helped me push me along the way. So we started this process. And then I know the deal about plans. You know, everyone knows the patent quote about plans are great until the first bullet hits, or the first punch is thrown. And those are all valid. That's why a plan should be super agile, super flexible, and don't be stuck in your ways, you know. So I thought, hey, how about a one-page plan? So a one-page plan is pretty agile. It's not hard to change. It's not overburdensome to create, and then it doesn't sit, right? We all know this. We spend millions and millions of dollars to have a big firm come in, do a plan. The plan never really gets executed. It's just funny how that happens, right? But I thought, what if you had a one pager and what that would do for your life? And I did other research and found some people doing it and some organizations doing really simple plans, and it really seemed to make a difference. So we started doing it 25 years ago. And so have a couple of these binders. Now, this was started in the era before a lot of computerization. So I did have all the documents in Word at one point, and they're somewhere in some old system or on a floppy disk in my closet, probably is where the historical ones exist. But we also printed them out because every year we would take a retreat, and we typically do it at the end of year. You know, if you do this right, you review your plan, it's only one page, on a monthly basis with your partner or your mentor or whatever the plan is about. And then you adjust it. But on an annual basis, you know, that might be the time to really grade yourself. Like, how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 10? Where are the gaps? What can you do to mitigate those gaps? Or maybe you've mastered one of them and you don't really need to track it anymore, so you add a new one. And so then on the back of them, we'd rate each other. Like, we'd help each other. Like, hey, how are you as a dad? You know, you get this feedback from your kids. Our kids were involved at really, really young ages, and they have their own plans. And so it really seemed to work. Now, it's not foolproof. Doesn't mean you're still going to run into issues in your relationships, and I certainly did. But I think it gives you a higher probability for success. So anyways, I'm not going to bore you with my specific plans, but we had one for our family because all of our kids were young, and how we wanted to commit as a family, and provide a home of honor, blessing, and freedom. So things like that had these values, and we called it a constitution, but they were the measurable things. Then we'd have one for, like I said, we write on the back of them, like, significant things that happened as a result. This one is January 2009. So, like, here's my personal plan. And, that's when I started. So it was way back when, if you've ever heard me speak, I tell you, I'm four things around S, the word S. Back here was three things on S. It was serve, shape, and share. And since then I added study. So if you want to know who I am, those are the four things, my pillars. And I have values, vision, live a life beyond approach. Others would seek God, strategies, and then objectives. And I rate myself, and we'd say, like, where it was. Like, this one was done at Southern Hotel in Vail, Colorado. And on the back, like, what are some cool things that happened? And there's a lot. And so it provides this historical document. My wife, my son, who at the time was probably 10, daughter who was 5, 6, they all had a plan. And then we did it every year, this whole thing. And so you could go back through this, got another notebook like this, and see what was important to us and what things did we accomplish. And since then, since we started automating everything, I don't have a hard copy, keep it in a nice binder, but we go through it. And I just went through it with Simran. We just did our annual retreat and updated our plan for our marriage. And it was great because it's part of it too. It's just the conversation that happens. So it's really easy. And if you ping me, if you make a comment, I will, and leave me your email, I'll send you a copy. And I've helped people literally around the world do this. I've done retreats around the world. So when I was really, really into this, I would do like 3-day retreats for organizations on how to do this and take them through a plan. I'll never forget one. I'll just tell you one couple of stories. One, we took these couples, we were all probably in our 30s, starting to get pretty significant in terms of our careers. And, one of them, he was the head of HR for a major city in Colorado. And we went through this process, and they really focus on finance, like part. And, tragically, he passed away within a year. And his surviving wife would say that, the plan made all the difference because they got their finances all together as a result of the plan. They got their will and stuff in order, all that kind of stuff that sometimes we put off, but because they had a plan and it was in it, they tracked it, really made a difference. And I've seen the same in people's career, like their career was stagnant. They didn't really have a plan. And then I helped them through this process. And now they've reached the pinnacles of their career. There's a couple of people like that. So it really does make a huge difference. And I've had testimonies from around the world, people who actually went through it. Now, interestingly, I've taught this before. And usually when I teach it, so I do this 3-day retreat, didn't mean to get into that, but just to let you know how extensive it can be to really break it down and explain mission, vision, values. So these are the sections, just like you would find on any strategy: mission, vision, values. I call them objectives and key results, or you can call them strategies and objectives, but basically 4 or 5, you don't want to get more than that, 4 or 5 broad, sort of like qualitative items about what you want to do. And then underneath it, maybe 2 to 3 objective criteria that are measurable. That's the key, measurable. And I'm telling you, it makes a difference. And again, it's the process that you go through to sit down with your spouse or sit down with your mentor or sit down with your kids. It's a process. And the things that you talk about really brings a lot of cool things up. So highly, highly recommend doing this. So I call it I created a LinkedIn message that said revolution, not resolution, right? Because this is the time of year people do resolutions. And we all know the shelf life of resolution is about 1 week. They just don't work because they're lacking sort of that overall structure. So having a fully baked plan really makes a difference in people's lives. I could tell you a lot more testimonials, but to keep the video, the lessons sort of short, I'll just leave it hanging there. But if you want more information, just reach out to me. If you leave a comment, I'll send you a copy of our most recent one. I'll send you my career one as well. So I have one for my career. And, may it help you and bless you in 2025 and beyond.